All right, it's time for another podcast, and this one's for 518. It's a big group today, and everyone's wearing some pretty colorful stuff, so it's making for some really interesting video, which I'm really loving. Skies are clear, and everyone is looking for, once again, the legendary Sprint Zone. So, COVID's pretty much over. At least everyone's feeling safer, and the mask mandate has been lifted, so definitely many more people are coming out. We approached the stop sign. This time we stopped quite nicely. So it looks like that speech I gave the other week actually took hold. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Looks like maybe about 20 riders today. Some of the big men are missing. Joel's not here. No Matthew Michaels, etc. So it looks like I'll have to be holding down the fort with perhaps Curtis and Carl, etc. So not too concerned, but it's time to move to the front anyhow because you never know when one of these guys is gonna get a little crazy and attack quickly. So we got looks like Mike Weeder back there. We got like Eric, Kent, Steve, Rick, Ian. Looks like Michael, Steve, Carl, John, Dean, Danny, Brandon, and I believe just out of my sight might be Isla, Curtis, and Greg. So definitely a big crew today. So heading up Prospect, um, everyone's holding it down pretty nicely. Greg's up front. He's got Isla in tow, I believe. Curtis is hanging in there. I think Greg brought Isla to the front because it was going to help her like get a good position. But the draft up front isn't that good. So Greg's plan should have been to keep her in the middle instead of like bringing her to the front. And regardless, a poor plan is better than no plan at all. So Danny heads to the front, and I'm on this one. Danny can be dangerous if he gets a gap and maybe somebody joins him. At this point, I think I've got his number, at least at this point. So I settle in pretty nicely, throwing down some good wattage. Danny standing up early, swinging the bike around a tiny bit. If I'm pushing like 300 watts, he probably is too, or at least a little bit more. So this could cause everyone to string out and maybe soften the legs up to eventually cause a selection later on. I mean, keeping in mind that we've only got like 4 miles here, so you really got to do a little something special if you're going to cause a selection. So I'm in the number 2 position, looking pretty good. Looking behind, yes, indeed, that effort did string everybody out. The big men, at least those that are large here, are up there. It's like Greg holding his own. Isla has been pushed back to the field. We got Curtis, Steve in the yellow coming up, not wanting to be out of contention. And Dean, as usual, always near the front with that bright red Rio kit. So it looks like we're taking it easy now. We're going to be going into that corner. There were a couple of cars up, so I yelled this time. There was a truck and a car. So everyone's going to follow the rules of engagement, and everyone looks really pretty as they avoid the yellow line and have plenty of room there. Danny up front still stretching it out. Now I take over, pushing some decent wattage, nothing crazy. Want some other people to come to the front, and the group is a little too strong for anyone to get away yet. But what we need here is like a concerted effort with a lot of people pushing like 300 watts or so to make something happen. Dean looks pretty comfortable out there, but then all of a sudden, like kisses the yellow line and comes back. Not certain what that was all about. He's definitely strong enough to be higher up in the pack. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe he just wants to observe a few things. Anyway, I'm still pretty happy out front. Two and a half, 300 watts. I'm still feeling pretty good. Looking at my heart rate, 129. That's totally wrong. That Garmin thing does not read right off my wrist. In any case, Greg comes to the front. Curtis happy to pull through, and it looks like we're starting to get organized. Danny once again comes to the front, and it looks like the big men here have asserted themselves, and we know who's going to be doing most of the work today. Greg definitely throwing it down up there, making certain to keep everybody honest. Looks like he may have slowed down a little bit, maybe. Or Curtis is just figuring it's time for him to go do some work. So Danny's right on Curtis. Greg has pulled off nicely. And I'll note to the correct side. There are a few people that pulled off earlier to the other side. So I'm not quite certain what that was about. I'll talk about it later when we see it. But for some reason, looks like maybe the pace slowed a little bit, or I was getting a wild hair somewhere, and I figured I needed to come to the front. Perhaps it was my feeling that there wasn't enough of a selection being made, or people were just letting the strongmen just hang out there. So, coming to the front, 300 plus watts, everybody's still strung out. Curtis sitting pretty comfortably, and I can see that there's no selection yet. I mean, definitely everybody's getting stronger. Everybody has learned to sit in, get pretty relaxed in a tight group. So it's going to be more and more difficult to make things happen unless there's some extremely strong members willing to like hang themselves out there to dry. But we really don't have that kind of horsepower here today. So hanging out front, maybe a little longer than I should, but for me, it's not about winning. Yeah, I'd like to win, but it's about getting some good work in because when you pay money and you're on the line, that's when it counts. These are just merely exercises. So Curtis pulls through nicely, nice and smooth, not an attack, and it looks like we are starting to get organized. Danny comes through nicely, taking the front, and nobody grabs Danny's wheel. Not certain what is up with that. I know Carl and Eric and Steve and some of the strongmen are back there. Oh yeah, here we go. So now Carl's coming to the front. And we got Steve in tow here. So now finally it looks like everyone's getting organized. Maybe Carl was a little into the party, but he's definitely pushing pretty hard here. If I'm sitting in at like, it looks like 300 watts, and as you can see, yeah, people are stomping on the pedals here. So I'm pushing it up to like 550, looks like 545 was my big wattage there, and that was probably enough to soften up a few people. And if I had looked behind, I'm certain there had been perhaps the selection beginning to happen. Ian looking pretty strong up there. Nice move getting on Steve's wheel. Carl looks like maybe he's like spent here, and so Carl pulls off to the left. I mean, it's a slight echelon. I would have wiggled my elbow and pulled off to the right here. Um, I mean, this is okay. I mean, everybody's racing. It isn't that strong of a wind, but sometimes it's just easier. Or perhaps it's a smart move to like get some shelter. Yeah, so if you do throw yourself off to the left, you're kind of be in the shelter. So if there is an attack, then you're going to be covered. So yeah, so maybe I stand corrected on that one. I guess you just got to play it by ear. But regardless, with only the slight wind, crosswind, it's not that bad. So Steve coming up near the front, plenty of people to draft off of, and it looks like his heart rate's under control, and he's able to contribute here. Not quite certain what's going on here. Like, so the, the pace line has kind of reversed its direction, going counterclockwise now. Not sure what's up with that because the wind's slightly off our shoulder to the right. But hey, you know, maybe it's just so settled that people just didn't notice. But earlier on, we were going the opposite direction in case anybody didn't notice that. So Ian looking pretty strong up there, looking for some help, looking to get back in. I can see he's beginning to tire. The big men are a little too much. The heads of state are coming to the fore, and it looks like Kent throwing it down. Yeah, probably 400 watts plus up there. Looks like his shoulders drop a tiny bit, maybe looking for some help. He looks over, thankful that Steve has come to the front. I am more than happy to sit on Steve's wheel. A couple of reasons. He's super strong and he's super smooth, and I know he's not going to do anything foolish. Yep, wiggles the elbow once again, doing the counterclockwise thing. We look around here. It looks like maybe he's controlling himself, and it looks like we may have gotten a slight bit of a gap here because there's nobody on my wheel. So I'm not certain what is up with that. I suspect maybe other people were looking to have somebody else do the work. Maybe so. But as usual, Curtis is always happy to come through. Now Steve's coming through. Danny on the outside. Eric for the first time coming near the fore. Danny once again returning up to the Fab Five up there. John with the bright green sleeves there, just a little bit behind Carl. Looks like Rick and Mike Weeda way back there. Everyone's still pretty much there. Although a few people have been shelled, but as big as the group is, not much has happened just yet. So Eric's got that visor on. I keep talking about that visor. You know, I'm certain it's not doing him any favors because it's just a big wind catcher. John out there all by himself, not in the line, working hard, um, trying to keep pace, I guess, and not telling if he's going to hang in there. It looks like, no, maybe we've got a selection that's been made here. Curtis, Eric, everybody working hard. Steve comes off the front. Looks like I must be close to the front. Looking at the wattage, 300 watts or so. Yeah, and I can look back there and yep, people have been shelled with some of that effort. Can't see who's back there still, but it looks like, oh, and here's the final attack. So Danny goes super hard. I'm a little bit winded. There goes Eric. There goes Steve. And Danny is just leading it out from the front. Um, Curtis back there looking strong. I'm not certain who actually won this one. I'm going to say maybe it was Curtis. Um, maybe Steve. But regardless, like a good time was had by all. So a special thanks to Ian for providing his camera view that was in the upper left up there, so you can see what it looked like back there. And safe ride, especially keeping in mind that the TTH boys had a little bit of an incident the other day, some overlapped wheels or some such. Not certain what the details were there, but you know, safety first, gentlemen and ladies, safety first. So a little bit of a cool down here. Um, Everyone's kind of catching up. Rick and I lamenting or chatting about how fast it was coming up through here. Very nice. Everyone's relaxing. We'll take a look and we'll see who was first to the turnaround. We may assume that that may have been the winner there. Steve pulling through always, keeping his heart rate up. A moment of silence as we recover.